It's important to note that these assessment scores are a reflection of the impact of COVID. Educators and families did everything they knew to do through the first year of the pandemic. Nonetheless, it's important that we take these results seriously and not dismiss them. They are one data point to help us understand the impact of a global pandemic on student learning and to own the truth of education outcomes for our student at this moment in time. So the results show that 60% of elementary school students are not meeting the standards for reading. 70% of middle school students are not meeting the standards for mathematics. 70% of our high school students are not meeting benchmarks in mathematics for college readiness, and 60% are not meeting the benchmarks in reading and English for college readiness. These are important metrics to understand how we are currently preparing our students for progress into the future. And while there are many metrics we can look at, these are still important metrics. The district also surveyed students around school climate and culture to better understand how students were feeling through the pandemic with respect to connection to their educators and access to learning. And for the most part, students scored their school districts and their educators well. And this is a tribute to all of the outreach that our educators did through the pandemic to students and families to keep them connected in a world we could never have imagined before this pandemic took hold across the globe. So what does this mean now? Right now, this should be a call to action to each of us, to all of our communities, to come together, to come to the table, for everybody to work together around a plan that utilizes all the resources coming into our school districts, coming into our municipalities, coming into our community-based organizations to make sure we're meeting students and families where they are, and we're beginning to accelerate learning as we continue to move through this pandemic and hopefully at some point in the near future begin to move out of it. This is a time where our public system needs to think intentionally about innovation. What are students and families demanding in this moment? And we know it's very different from family to family, from student to student. For some, virtual learning has worked. For others, it has not. For some, parents want their students at home now, either because of the mask mandate or because of the lack of a mask mandate. For some, parents and students want access to learning with others still, but in a safe and healthy environment. How does our public system innovate in a way that meets the needs of our families and students, in a way that begins to establish a very new normal where our public system of free and quality education meets the needs of students today and prepares them for the future economy where they will each have to compete regardless of this moment in time. We hope our local communities, our local school districts will invite each other to the table to design plans and evaluate those plans over the course of this next year and into the years ahead to ensure that this 1 year is a blip on the radar where we see significantly lower results than we'd like to see. And the years ahead, we see the significant progress that we must for growth in our state. We hope our policymakers will ask our school districts and our communities to report and to compile how they're spending resources, federal resources and state resources to help improve student outcomes, to innovate at the local level to meet the needs of students and families, and that innovation proving successful. Our school districts across the state need that information from one another, and the public needs to see that innovation at work. So these results that were released today by the Department of Education are important. They are not a value judgment on any of us, on any of our communities, on any of our school districts or our educators. They are a snapshot of a moment in time that should call all of us to a great sense of urgency to design solutions that ensure that Kentuckians are prepared for a big, bold future.